Hello. Okay, so I'm Chantel, your therapist, and today's lesson is going to be on distress tolerance, which is a concept or skill or something that we're going to learn today that has to deal with the technique of using dialectical behavior therapy, DBT. So the first thing I want you to do, if you haven't already, is stop this video that you're watching of me and watch the video that I sent you on DBT, distress tolerance skills. Okay, the difference between pain and suffering. So I want you to watch that first, and then come back to this video. Okay, so basically with DBT, when we're looking at dialectical behavior therapy, is dealing with when we have like those painful or overwhelming emotions. Okay, and when we have those emotions, sometimes we can't go into that logical mind to rationalize, because emotions it's like a mind of its own. Remember we discussed that, where we have the emotion mind and the rational mind, and then it's the wise mind in between. Now when you're in those heightened emotions, for whatever reason, something could trigger you, you know what I'm saying? It's something could have happened 2 or 3 days ago, but you're having a hard time like releasing it or letting it go. And maybe that's the issue, because you're trying to let it go. You know what I'm saying? You can't let things go. You need to acknowledge what is. Okay, that's what DBT says. Acknowledge what is. Acceptance is about mindful acceptance of a situation. When you can identify how you feel, like naming whatever your emotion is, and then like not judging it, basically acknowledging it and validating it, that takes away the stress of it. You know what I'm saying? Because when we suppress it or try to ignore it, it's still there. It's going to come up in different ways we thinking about things, how we feeling, and then how we act towards the situation, because we feel how we feel. We feel angry, say I feel angry. If you feel anxious, say I feel anxious. And then, you know what I'm saying, and then you accept it. Like that's when we start learning breathing exercises to become one with your emotions. I keep thinking of a story. When I lived in Michigan, I have a twin sister, and we lived in Michigan, and I was on the campus of Eastern Michigan University. That's where I went for undergrad. And it was cold. It was like it was winter time, and it was so cold that my cheeks had started to feel chapped, and it's like blood started coming out of the pores, because that's how cold it was. And I remember telling my twin sister, oh my God, it's so cold. I just feel like I just want to escape the cold. And then she said, Sean, you have to embrace the cold. And when she said that, it made sense. So then I started viewing it differently, like seeing the beauty of the cold, like the briskness of the air, the freshness of the air. So whatever mode we're in, whatever emotional state we're in, is beauty in that state, because it's our body trying to tell us something about us that we're trying to ignore, because we're viewing that emotion or the situation as bad. It's not bad, it just is. Okay, and that's what it is with being mindful. But with distress tolerance, which is the lesson today, got sidetracked a little bit. It basically helps you cope better with painful events, and it helps you build up a resiliency and gives you new ways to soften the effects of the circumstances, like the story I just told you, accepting it and then viewing it differently, seeing the beauty in whatever mode that you're in. Okay, so now that you know that and you watched the video, you got some skills. I want you to now look at the worksheet that I sent you. It's not really a worksheet. It's like a piece of paper that has boxes where you can check things off. So I want you to go through them each, or if somehow you can like still hear me on this video, just like swipe up and go to your message where I sent it to you, and then look at it while I read it to you. And I want you to identify which statements that you can relate to, and either text it to me, or we're going to talk about it in our next session. So keep that paper, or keep it in mind. Okay, the first one that's under this checklist, which is common coping strategies used by people dealing with problems, okay, is you spend a great deal of time thinking about past pains, mistakes, and problems. Is that you? You get anxious, worrying about possible future pains, mistakes, and problems. You isolate yourself from other people to avoid distressing situations. You make yourself feel numb with alcohol and drugs. You take your feelings out on other people by getting excessively angry at them over, or trying to control them. Sorry, you get excessively angry at them, or you try to control them. Okay. You may engage in potentially dangerous behaviors, such as cutting, hitting, scratching, picking at, or burning yourself, or pulling your hair, or pulling your own hair out. You engage in unsafe sexual activities, such as having sex with a stranger or having frequent unprotected sex partners. You avoid dealing with the causes of your problems, such as an abusive, such as abusive or dysfunctional relationship, or you use food to punish or control yourself by eating too much or not at all, or by throwing up what you do eat. You attempt suicide or engage in high-risk activities like reckless driving or taking dangerous amount of drugs or alcohol, or you avoid pleasant activities such as social events and exercise because you don't think that you deserve to feel better, or you surrender to your pain and resign yourself to living a miserable life. So which one can you relate to? Because these are negative ways of coping. And this is the things that we want to correct, but we have to identify the ones that you do first, okay? And then we'll work on that during our next session, okay? All right, so this is the mini lesson with the DBT. So watch this stress tolerance skill video that I sent you, the difference between pain and suffering, because these things that you would check off here are negative coping skills, maladaptive coping skills, but we need to identify what yours are so that we can work on changing it to a more positive way to cope. You know what I'm saying? So we all cope. We cope in our own way. A lot of times we don't cope the right way by doing things that adds on to the problem or negatively impact our life overall. So that's what we need to look at, and that's what we need to work on. And just so you know, this happens with everybody. As human beings, we naturally try to make a situation right. But the thing is, in our world today, now as it is, it's such a fast-paced society, and there's so many expectations on us that, you know, it's easier, like, oh, let me go have a drink or something so I can calm my nerves, or you know what I'm saying? You find like quick ways, but in order to live a healthy, productive life, a successful life, we need to do the work on ourselves. You know what I'm saying? It's called self-care, and we need to do the work. Like these things, like the counseling and therapy, this is actually ways to help teach positive coping skills, okay? And we start by just taking a step back and identifying what our issues are and how we're dealing with the problems now. And then from there, we go and looking at how we replace the negative or maladaptive ways of dealing with the situation into more positive coping skills that's going to help us in the long run, okay? All right, now before we end, I got some essential coping skills cards. And what I'm going to do is, probably backwards, I realize I'm doing this from my phone. I'm going to it's a little deck of cards. I'm going to shuffle it and pull out 1, 2, or 3 cards that kind of gives a coping skill that I want you to practice this week, okay? Okay, this one says, take the elevator down. So are you feeling overwhelmed? Connect with your 5 senses. That's going to help you calm down. Name the following: 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. So like that's like you could take a walk. You ground yourself by going outside in nature, taking a walk, breathing in the fresh air. Deep diaphragmatic breathing. When you know you're breathing from the diaphragm is when you breathe in, your stomach pokes out. Okay, so put your hand on your belly and breathe out slow. When you breathe out, let's say you breathe in on a count of 2, you breathe out on a count of 4. So your out breath is longer, so it helps you relax so you don't hyperventilate, okay? And then if you want to, do a little pause, like a 1 or 2 second pause in between, and then breathe out. Okay, so then when you're walking around, grounding yourself with your deep breathing, just look at 5 things that's around you: the trees, the grass, the cars in the driveways or the parking lot, you know what I'm saying? The houses, the apartment colors, anything that you can see, and just start naming that. So that brings you out of that overwhelmed state, because you're getting out of your head. You're not ruminating, thinking about the thing that's making you overwhelmed. You basically calming your nerves, your sympathetic nervous system, by like bring yourself to the present moment. You know what I'm saying? Not overthinking things. And if you can look at 4 things you can touch, you know what I'm saying? You can touch your arm. You know what I'm saying? I can like, you know, massage the palm of my hand. I can feel my feet walking on the ground. You know what I'm saying? I can go touch the tree bark over there. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that. 4 things that you could touch. I'm trying to think of one more thing. Maybe you could like touch your hair or massage your scalp just to like, you know, calm yourself, okay? 3 things that you can smell, okay? Maybe you have some good smelling perfume on. Maybe you got a candle. Maybe you can go back in the house and light a candle or something like that. You know, aromatherapy, that's really, really, really good. Like lavender oils are relaxing. Maybe you can like, you know, I don't know, cook a good meal and smell the aroma of that meal, okay? Oh, did I say, I'm sorry, it was 3 things that you can hear. So 3 things you can hear. So things you can hear could be like the cars riding by, the trees blowing in the wind, like you hear that wind sound, and maybe you can hear people talking in the background. So it's a way to distract yourself. Then there's 2 things you can smell. Like you can go in a house, light a candle, you take a bubble bath, put some smelly goods in that, and then 1 thing you can taste. You know what I'm saying? Maybe have a sip of your apple juice and just savor it. Like be mindful as you're drinking the apple juice, like put it in your mouth, swish it around, you know, and then swallow it, and then like kind of describe the taste. This is a way that you can like calm your senses down in the parasympathetic nervous system. It's called take the elevator down. So that's a coping technique. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste, okay? Let's do 1 more card. Okay, 1 more card. Oh, 2 came out. Okay, so mindfulness, okay? This is actually called mindfulness. It's probably backwards when you see it right here. But cognitive load is the total amount of mental effort you are using. Prolonged overload leads to frustration and burnout. If your mind were a browser, write down the topics on your open tabs. Which tabs can you close to ease your cognitive load? Isn't that good? That's a good way of looking at it. So if your mind is full, think about like you got your computer up, you got all these tabs open. You know what I'm saying? So you like overwhelmed, you don't know where to start, and your computer running slow because there's too many things open. Maybe you got to reboot. So you need to, you don't want to burn out. So you got to close some of those tabs out. So which tabs in your mind, what thoughts are you thinking that needs to be deleted, canceled right now, or just put on hold? You know what I'm saying? Even you just write it down. What can you stop? So when you distract yourself from things, we don't want you to like avoid it or ignore it altogether. You just put it into the back burner and focus it on 1 at a time. So it's like you have like 5 things up in your browser, close down 4 of them and focus on 1 right now and get that one, work through that 1 task mentally, or do that 1 task if it's an actual physical thing to do, and then go on to the next instead of trying to do everything at once, because that's what makes you feel overwhelmed, okay? That's a really good one, mindfulness, okay? Last one is the circle of control. This is a good technique. Make a list of your worries and fears. So you make 1 list, worries and fears, and then you want to draw 2 circles, okay? Sort your list by putting what you can control in 1 circle and what you can't control in the other circle. So which circle is giving you the most anxiety? And then ask yourself, is it controllable? Can any of these things that are listed here be controlled? Okay, that's identifying stuff. That's going to help ease some of the distress that you're feeling when you're overwhelmed and have like a tidal wave of emotions. Okay. All right, this is our little lesson for today. Watch the DBT stress tolerance skill video, and then we're going to talk next session. Until next time.